All right, welcome to the Nathaneal Podcast. Today we have one of my good friends from X, Alex Kamel. Welcome, bro.
Happy to be here, Nathaniel. It's awesome. I know we've been talking on X for a while. I've always been talking in spaces. We were talking about, your ghostwriting. I'm always shouting out that banner of yours, whether the new one or the old one. It's just a great way of messaging. So I'm happy to be here and really excited.
Yeah, happy to have you, bro. I appreciate those things, those shout outs. Yeah, not a lot of people compliment me with my banner, but because you do, my confidence just. So yeah, just diving right in, your banner actually says discover, build, and grow.
hmm
Um, can you like expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just a little bit of what I've talked about in the past, and I we talked about actually before on the podcast as well, is that I've used to run an account on X for the last 2-3 years that was more based in marketing and coaching within Web3 and crypto. I've kind of since then have moved on from there, but the reason I have built this into a personal brand and wanted to kind of go this route is I felt it was more genuine. It can be more genuine. It just depends on how someone markets it or someone builds it up. So, really, the first step of building that profile, when I've kind of made that shift, was really discovering what do I want to do? What is
Mm,
my brand about? That discovery aspect, and it's going to take a lot of self reflection. People say
right.
just start, and it is important to just start because that's how you can discover yourself. But I think at least taking about 30 minutes to an hour, and it sounds like it's not even that much time, but some people just want to jump in and they don't want to think about it. But I always talk about Ikigai charts. Fill out one of
Mm,
those. Discover one, what you're good at. Two, what you like to do. Three,
mm,
what would be good for the world? What would help the world? And
yeah.
four, what can you get paid? What can help you get paid? So, I mean, if you find something in each of those categories that you can combine into one, that's your Ikigai. That's your purpose. So you have
Yeah.
to discover that first, which I really find to be really very important. And then comes the build aspect. So really building it. You build on top of those pillars of what are you about, your brand. You discover that and then you build on top of that. So the best form I've found of building within content, within product, within anything of those aspects is breaking it down into three pillars. A lot of
Mm,
times we say, niche down, niche up, niche sideways, blah, blah, blah. So I think you want to keep three constant pillars of what is your brand. Personally, what I've found to be important, what I've been good at, what I like to do, what I think would be good for the world, and what I think can get me paid is I have worked on X growth for about 3-4 years, back in Twitter growth as well. So I I like all that stuff. It's discovering algorithms or even just doing things that doesn't matter with the algorithm. So that's one pillar that I like to discuss. Two, I went to school for psychology. I have my master's in industrial and organizational psychology. We can get into that later, but it's essentially the makeup of a company's infrastructure, their efficiencies, their culture, training and development programs, how to create those programs. So that's kind of where the coaching aspect comes from because of those training and development programs. So that's another pillar I want to talk about with mindset and psychology of a business and how to create a business that's not only successful but sustainable. You don't want
mm.
to people come here to get out of a 9 to 5, so you don't want to just make yourself a new 9 to 5. So I mean, of course, in the beginning, it's going to take more work and things like that, but it's all depending on what's your timetable. It's all, and everyone's different. So that it really is my second pillar into, into that. And now third is really more focused on business, entrepreneurial
Mm,
stuff. What's going to make you different? What different types? Are you a content creator? Are you a service provider? Are you a course creator?
mm,
Are you a ghostwriter? Anything like that. So really, just my family, my family. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Really, talking business ideas and inventions was a typical family conversation at the dinner table. So I I've always found discovering new ways to make money, new ways to have ideas, businesses. It's always been my interest. So
Mm.
really looking at those different ways with people, and everyone's different. And that's why I think going to coaching has been so much fun for me, is because everyone's different. There's a new puzzle to solve with each person.
Mm.
And I think it's just the most interesting thing to be able to solve that together. And then once you have the confidence in being able to think or know that, okay, if I just do this, this will happen. Because
Mm.
most people drop out of X or kind of those profiles because of the fact that they don't feel confident that, all right, if I keep doing this, am I going to get any kind of reward, or am I just going to be sitting here on X tweeting for 20 years with nothing happening?
Yeah.
So the absence of a end goal or a path
Right.
is the tough part. So it's kind of why I go into growth mindset a little bit. When I talk about, we just did a podcast or a space with inner practitioner. I talked with Arnie about it as well, where
Mm.
kind of talking about find the motivation in the step-by-steps. Don't find it
Right.
within the end goal. Don't say, all right, I'm not going to be happy doing this unless I'm making 10K a
Mm.
month or something like that, because you won't make 10K a month and you won't be happy. So, I mean, I think just both of those processes. But I guess that's a long-winded way to answer your question.
No, I like it, bro. I like it because I also think that now that you're saying it out loud, it actually is somewhat of a cycle because when you're growing, you're also continuing to discover yourself, and then you're continuing to build, continuing to grow, continuing to discover, build, grow. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is like it just becomes a bigger and a bigger thing. So, but one thing that stood out to me was because this is one of your giveaways too, right? Like Ikigai. And I'm gonna be honest, it was completely new to me. I saw it. I think it was Matt Gray where I saw it. He talked about it, and I personally like didn't do it because I found it too taxing. Like I guess it was also because I already kind of knew. Well, because I already do journal. I already write, and I'm curious, like, how was the Ikigai formation for you? Like, what were the things you were considering? So, for example, the four pillars, each pillar, like, how did you come up with your Ikigai?
I love that question. And I also found it from Matt Gray as well. That's where I found it. And I was like, oh my God, this is genius. That's what got me hooked. That's what got me hooked into the personal branding, into the whole thing. And then I found Danco off of that because I love the style of Matt Gray's videos, and I was looking at how to do those types of videos, and then I found it kind of like originated from Danco's videos, and then I was kind of looking deeper and deeper, and then that's how I jumped in. It's from
Mm.
Ikigai, so that's kind of why I wanted to make it a very essential part. Is because if it brought me in, then I feel like people that would fit my vibe, my brand, it would bring them in as well. So
Mm.
when it comes to what I broke down my Ikigai into was, let's go about what I love to do first.
Mm.
As I mentioned, building a business or any kind of invention or idea, really talking about those ideas. Like I could sit here and
Mm.
talk about different ideas about um, different phone holders. Like the other day, I was talking about like inventing, like just like not myself, but like me and my friends were just talking about like different kind of cup holders, like to have like on the golf course, like something like just like that stuff. Like just it's a brain teaser, you know. It just was
Yeah.
always very interesting to me. So that's always stuff that I've really liked to do. Um, Stuff that I'm good at. I've done X marketing and growth for 3-4 years. I fell in love with it when I started when during COVID, actually. During
Mm.
my grad school program, I was in school, I was working online. I graduated my undergrad in during COVID, and I started right after that for grad school. And that's when I really fell in love with the whole idea of social media from more of the Twitter side, because you're able to have more conversations on
Mm.
Twitter, and expanding to different social medias, that is a future goal. But I think really within X, the genuine connection that you can make is very important. So it's something I
Yeah.
really love to do, is building on there, seeing the progress made on each level, and that would be
Mm.
able to help me focus more on like progress than end goal, is just
Mm.
the genuine connections. This where you invited me here and just I was so excited when I got that. I was like, all right, awesome. Anytime someone invites me to speak at space, go to podcast, like I love this stuff because we could just talk and have more
Yeah.
genuine conversation instead of just being like, get 1% better under someone's comment. I think it's just so important to really just be able to just really break it down
Mm,
and get into that, because not only is it gonna not only fun for us, but it's gonna help someone else that's watching this saying,
mm,
"Oh, you know what? I haven't thought of that. Let me try that, or let me see that, or let me DM Nathaniel or Alex and ask them." So that's something I've really have been good at doing, and I love to do as well. So, how can I make money? Of course, there's the I started just doing X growth for people, helping them do the X growth for
mm.
them. I would write their content. I would be essentially I'd be a
A
ghostwriter. I'd do
ghostwriter.
the content, I'd do the marketing. I would do kind of everything like that, connecting with people DMs. I'd basically just take over the account and just run it. That's what
Okay.
I did a lot on Twitter.
Right.
In the past with back when I was Twitter, I did it on crypto, Web3, those kind of profiles, as well as running groups to make money within like Discord, within Telegram, just having those different, whether it was an alpha group I was creating for like, buy this NFT project, but like that was kind of like back in what I would do. So that's how I would make money. And then let's see, what are you good at? What do you love doing? What will help the world? So what will
Mm,
help the world? So my particular mission that I find to be important is, I think, and I wrote about this on my website, so I think you might have saw it already, but
mm,
I think the ability to have sustainable work, the workplace is changing. It's
mm,
transforming. People are not going in to do nine to fives
mm.
as much, or they're more focused on their quality of life as
Yeah.
opposed to just getting in, working, going out,
Yeah.
retiring at 85.
Mm,
So I think just that whole world and mindset's changing. And as I've kind of grown up with this entrepreneurial mindset, I've really found it important to kind of share that with people. And I think a lot of people have that feeling in them, but have always been kind of programmed into the aspect of, well, that's all nice and good, but I can't do that for a living.
yeah.
I can't do that. That's not possible. I've been always told I gotta go to school. I gotta go do this work from 9 to 5, and I
Yeah.
gotta retire at 85. Like
Mm,
there's no other way. And I think people are just, and it's no fault of their own, because it's just I was fortunate enough to grow up in an environment where I was able to learn kind of from an early age the entrepreneurial mindset and just things like that. So I think it's just making people aware of that, aware
mm.
of, you can do this. Like, it's possible. It's possible for
Yeah.
anyone. It's possible for me. It's possible for anyone. So I think really making people aware of that is
Yeah.
something that I love. There's some people that I know, just back in crypto days, web marketing days, when there was someone that was working 9 to 5 in construction, and um, wanted to build an online presence, and then
Mm,
from the growth that he saw, just realized, okay, this is actually something I can do. And it just blew his mind. It was just so great for me to almost see, because you enlightened that person
yeah.
essentially. Like they saw the
The
vision, they
potential.
saw the idea of, I can do something I love and I can make money from it. I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to love what I can make money from. That's not possible. That's what a lot of people think. And it's all good in theory, because it does take a lot of work to get to that point. And you might have to do some work you don't like in order
Mm,
to have the time and energy to build to do something you like. Work your 9 to 5, so you can work your 6 to 10, and then your 6 to 10 becomes your 9 to 2. Something like that, essentially.
mm.
So I think really sharing that message that people are able to do this, and it's 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 not easy,
Mm.
but with consistency, it becomes very, very possible.
For sure. I just think though, like this is what my idea was when you saying like people 9 to 5, the 9 to 5 mentality. I think there will come a point where they will be forced to realize that because AI is taking over, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like the internet, AI, all this information automation thing. There will come a point where then average 9 to 5er will be replaced, and then he'll realize, or he or she will realize that, oh shit, I need to like do something else. I can't like do this boring work anymore. Even if they're comfortable, right? Even if they love their job, they're still going to be forced to do something creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially with inflation, the way a lot of salaries are working, some people working a 9 to 5 don't even feel comfortable in their 9 to 5
Yeah.
on paycheck to paycheck. And I think,
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation with inflation.
Yeah,
But it's
for
just
sure.
a very interesting, like we're not going to evolve unless we're forced to evolve in a sense. And I think between that and from COVID, I mean, look at how many creators came out of COVID. Dan Coe was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big shift. That was a big mindset shift for a lot of people. A lot of people had the time. A lot of people had the energy. And that is why there was such a burst in the creator economy. I mean, the creator economy is massive, and it's got a continual growth rate of, I don't even know the percentage,
Yeah,
probably
it
like
hasn't
18%,
even.
something
Yeah, it hasn't
ridiculous.
touched the half. Like he hasn't even touched. I don't know, 80%. Like it's still 90% of people are still just consumers, not creating, right?
Exactly. And
It's
that's
still
what
gonna
people need to
continue to
understand
grow.
is like, you're still so early. Like, it's so funny because like I hear that and I'm like, ugh, that's a bunch of bullshit. And then the funny part was I joined, and I had my experience before, but when I joined, I was like, okay, maybe I'm like one of the later people. And then now, looking back from 2.5 months ago when I started, I
Mm.
look at all these brand new accounts, and there are so many new accounts,
Yeah.
from even two and a
It's
half months ago
crazy.
from when I started. So there's always going to be more and more people coming in, and it's just a fact because listen, you'll know you're not early anymore when this has done a full takeover, or this is become a full,
Yeah.
you don't see people on Wall Street anymore or something like that, because the fact
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is it's still at that innovation stage. It's still at that,
Right.
okay, we've seen some people succeed, but how many people can succeed?
Mm.
um, and just seeing the possibilities of it. And the fact is there's just always more things to learn from people. I think traditional education, it was kind of, you have to learn this, you have to learn that.
Yeah.
And now within this creator economy, it is, okay, if you want to learn this, you go to this person. If you want to
You
learn
get.
that, you go to
Yeah.
that person, or that
Mm.
group of people. And it makes the education so much more particular, so much more focused, and with mentorship, so much more catered personally.
Mm.
So I find it to be a very good future of education.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think everyone complains about the school systems, and the fact of the matter is, this is almost a new curriculum, a new type of school system. I mean, you see
Yeah.
kids on their iPads learning about crazy things just like at a young age
Yeah.
because
For sure.
they just need a screen.
Yeah. That's all they need now. And I think just to connect what you were saying earlier, because I feel like with your ikigai, the other factors that you put in, it's very divergent. Because the normal thinking, traditional thinking is it's very convergent, right? It's like
Hmm.
there's only one path to success. There's only one way to become a millionaire, to become a billionaire. But now it's like you there's this guy in my DMs. He messaged me, and then he just told me that he's a millionaire. I was like, "What? What? You're a millionaire?" And then now I'm realizing it. Like, there's so many millionaires now because there's no one path. It's not
Hmm.
only oil before, right? Like, if you get to the oil industry, you're gonna be rich. But so
Hmm.
everyone was going there. Now there's not like I don't know, like a meditation teacher could be a millionaire now, right? Before, if you told someone meditations, there's gonna be an industry called like about meditation, no one's gonna like get out of here, right? And
Yeah.
now there's so many possibilities. So yeah, just to go back to what you're saying, it's like with the thing you love, anything that you love can flourish now, like can help. Like the ikigai can be formed by just discovering really what you love, right? And just looking for that.
Exactly. And not just that, but also integrating the different things that you've learned. Like each thing that you've learned, you know, at first when I started, I started a million businesses before, and failed at a lot of them. The drop shipping sucked. I did a nonprofit. I mean, that was more about kind of collecting donations. So I'm half Lebanese, half Italian. We did a big donation collection when the port explosion in Lebanon around 2020. I've had a lot of businesses from, you know, more solo marketing things to nonprofit stuff like that. So, and a lot of them, you know, they didn't become sustainable.
Mm.
And I credit those things that didn't work for why these things are working now. Because the fact is, okay, nope, not going to do that. I fell into that trap last business, you know, where I had to sink $2,000 into a website that didn't even work, you know, something like that. You know, this website pretty much created just with a lot of the experience. So just kind of using a lot of that. Also, something I find to be very important is just combining your different educational experiences. So
Mm.
something that I like to do with my coaching calls that I personally think is a great way for people to do it. Because as I told you, I was in the psychology field. So
Mm.
at first I thought I wanted to go clinical because I really loved just kind of the way people broke things down in the clinical world
Mm.
of psychology, but you know, incorporating that in the business. You know, so now what I do essentially with coaching calls is I run through them like a therapy session almost,
Mm.
where if you were to tell me, you were to say, I love ghostwriting, I want to do that. I'd be like, okay, yeah, tell me about your experience with writing. Like, when did you start writing? How did you get to this point? Because then I don't just learn about, oh, Daniel's a good writer. I learned about how Nathaniel became a good writer.
Mm.
It's just such a different aspect, because then not only am I able to understand the fact that you can do a good job copywriting and ghostwriting, but the fact that you could do a good job maybe in more specific areas than other people know because of that deep knowledge. And I think just asking the right questions, and not only asking the right questions, but giving other people the time to go in depth and explain. I
Mm.
think that's why I think running coaching sessions like therapy sessions is very important, because a lot of coaches, you know, some people think they're going to go to a coach and they're going to give them all the answers and they're going to do all the
Yeah.
work for them and they make 10K a month. That's just not how to do it. I mean, that's something that people need to know early and often. People are going to do it because their determination. The coach is there. It's like a personal trainer. The
Yeah.
coach is there to walk you through it. The coach is there to let you know, if you continue to do this consistent action, you will succeed. And that's
Mm.
all you can really ask for, because that's how someone can do it on their own and then end up growing on their own that way. So I
Mm.
think with that kind of methodology, really understanding true introspection, having someone
Mm.
look at, why do I want to do this? What is my why? Finding your why is
Mm.
so important, because
Mm.
no one's going to follow you unless you have a certain why, unless you have a purpose. Um, Simon Sinek is someone who's a big marketing guru that I've always loved. He has a great TED talk on the Golden Circle that
Yeah.
talks about why.
Like
Um,
it was three, right? Three.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it goes into what, how, why a lot, and he mentions that a lot of companies kind of go inwards. They go, we do this, because, like, he talks about computers a lot because he talks about Apple. So he talks about like a different computer company. Like, we build we build the best computers. We build the best computers using state of the art technology and engineers. Want to buy one? And
Mm.
he talks about Apple kind of doing it from the inside out, kind of
Yeah.
saying everything we do for the purpose of expanding the future or
Yeah.
uh, growing
Questioning
civilization.
status quo.
Yeah, breaking status quo, exactly. And he goes, we do this by breaking the status quo, creating the most elegant systems that we do, and we just happen to make great computers. Now, do you want to
Want to
buy
buy
one?
one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just that whole way of zooming out.
Mm.
Give someone a reason to join your tribe. Don't give someone a reason to just buy your product, because then
Yeah.
you will work hours and hours and days and weeks and years just having someone buy your product once, and
Yeah.
then they're gone, and then that's not
Yeah.
sustainable.
I love it, bro. I love it because this is one of the concepts in copywriting as well. It's like people buy through emotion, and justify through reason, right? So that's why your hook, like when your hook is like, you say the price immediately, oh, it's cheap. It's like no one's going to care. But when you hook them with something that is really like hits the spot, hits their emotion, like talk. This is what I like to say. It's like you participate in a conversation that they already have in their head. So it's like, for example, what Simon Sinek said there when he talked about like we like to move forward to innovate. Like everyone in a way wants that, right? Everyone wants to stand out. Everyone wants to be like this new unique thing. And so when you say that, it's like, whoa, that's me. And then everyone now anything that you say, I'm in, because I identify with you. So yeah, I love that, bro.
And it's all about, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. Like now, like let's bring it to kind of the creators that I personally see out there. Like I see, obviously I see Matt Gray talking, he lives his brand through adventure, experience, traveling. That's kind of his vibe of just kind of being able to create sustainable systems, creating an economy of creators. That's his vibe. Arnie's vibe. Arnie Arnie has a great vibe where he's just a very personal, friendly person. I mean, he has a
It changed
child.
my life.
He has a child. He has a wife. He takes a bunch of selfies. I mean, that's Arnie. Audrey, she's a musician. She really focuses on just creating sustainable results. She focuses on not spending so much time on X. Very counterintuitive to what a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
She says, I don't want to spend time here. I want to just show you how to do it, make money, and then create a sustainable life where I can enjoy my life. And it's so funny because it's counterintuitive where like you're like, I'm not working like a million hours a day on X, but it's also relating to so many people because people say that because they think that's what they should say, but people don't want to do that. And she's just breaking through that question that answer that people are just not asking because they're afraid to ask it. So
Mm.
that is what can make the difference of what your why is. And people that say, I want to make money quickly and I don't want to be on X all day, they
Mm.
look at Audrey. And people that say
Mm.
like, I have a family and I want to support my family and I want to do it where I can spend more time with them and live my life. People look at
Right.
someone more into me or into Arnie as well. And Arnie especially does it very well with the way he presents his self and what he does. So I
Yeah.
think it's just you have to find what you want to represent.
Mm. I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
And just to go back to your, because you mentioned this is how you also coach people, and I love that because it's like in a way you're not solving your clients' problems, you're empowering them to solve their own, right?
Mhm.
By showing them their why, they begin to understand. You just take a step back and you see them like thrive. And like I love this because I also say this a lot. This is a quote from your website. Well, this is like a very famous quote. Like if you give a man a fish, he will live in a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll live forever. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Why would you give all the solutions to someone? The meta is going to change, right? And if you don't teach them how to learn, how to fish, right? When the meta changes, they won't know what to do.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely,
yeah.
yeah, and that's exactly why I made that shift from doing marketing within Web3 because I was doing the marketing for people. I was
Mm,
getting a client. I was like doing all the very much grunt work, and then it would be a one-time buy client, and they just wouldn't know how to do the system without it, and then I would only
mm,
be able to basically like one at a time, just the amount I took on.
mm,
So that's why instead of giving someone the fish,
mm.
I transitioned over to teaching someone how to fish, essentially,
Yeah.
and really just kind of getting people to understand that aspect of, you know, you're going to discover this on your own. And a lot of people think to themselves when they hear, oh, well, if you're just going to, guide me, I could do that myself. And what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you here for?
Yeah.
But here's the thing is I just said before, I failed so many things before this. And
Mm,
to And because of that, I've been able to build this because I knew this downfall. I knew this pitfall. I knew this would cost me this many months. I knew this would cost me this much money. You save a lot of time and money having someone guide you because you don't buy that website that, it's going to take up 6 months of your time and then waste $4,000 from you. You're not going to make this mistake by trying to do this kind of strategy and stuff like that because people have made those mistakes and people can learn from those mistakes. So it gives you the shortcuts for success. That's why, even with my experience of what I've had with NX, I still bought a program. I still bought into Danco's program because, first of all, a big thing that I personally feel, that I know other big creators and coaches feel as well, is how can you sell a product that you won't buy yourself, essentially? So you can't, I wouldn't feel right selling a mentorship or a coaching program if I didn't buy one myself. Also, I understood the ins and outs of X growth, but I wanted to understand the personal brands more. I want to understand how people thought, how people created these courses. So I bought into courses. I bought into one of Audrey's courses. I bought into Dan Koh's Cortex program. I mean, now understanding that and being able to break it down, and I think it's very important. People try to use the courses that they have is steal the framework. Obviously, don't steal the content. I think it's very important because some people have imposter syndrome. People are saying like, all right, well, I'm creating this from scratch. I have no idea if people are going to like this. I have no idea if this is what people are looking for. So see what other people are creating. I mean, something that Elon says a lot is know your competitor. I mean, not that they're competitive. Obviously, like we can all grow together, and I very much feel that because everyone has their own different niche, but it's the same kind of logic.
I mean, yeah, for sure, dude. And I think that's also, I'm just connecting copywriting because I'm a copywriter in a way, right? I mean, it's like if you sell something, so this is, my brain's getting jumbled right now, but you want to sell something people already want, right? So it's tested, because it's stupid to think that you're going to sell something so novel, completely reinventing the wheel and thinking that it's going to be a masterpiece. So this is like why I'm kind of, this is what I was thinking earlier. It's like people who say that they can sell an ice to an Eskimo is stupid, because why sell an ice to an Eskimo if you can sell a heater, which you already know they will value and will work, right? So I think something like that, like everything, there's nothing new under the sun, really, right? All the information that you're seeing, it may be packaged in a different way, but it is all the same. So it's not wrong to steal in a way. It's just that you need to be, how do you say this? You need to have actually done it, because you can't just get a book and then read it and then say the exact same words unless you have implemented the book. That's why I'm a big advocate for the how I, not the how to, because the how to is just like the book. But when you say how I, you integrate, okay, this is what I learned from the book, but this is how I used it in my life. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important to relate it to yourself. And that's something where, if someone has content, it's not like you can't use any content that someone has, but you have to be able to use it more personally. So like if someone has a content, I guess, talking about, let's say, storytelling or thread creation, where someone's saying like, for storytelling, you're going to want to understand people's problems. You're going to want to understand what that is and feed into it and then give them the solution by telling a story that you've been through. You can relate that to, all right, and then that is a lesson that's important. It's not trademarked, but also you have to make it personal to yourself. You can't just use someone else's problem. Like I can't just go copy and paste Danco's problem and use it as say, oh yeah, like I was, walking around Phoenix, Arizona with my blonde hair, talking about this. Like it just wouldn't work. So I would just I would have to talk about my experiences, what I did, what I tried to do that maybe didn't
Yeah.
work. Be transparent, be vulnerable, but also be you. I mean, I think really talking about what you've done that hasn't worked. People think,
Mm.
oh, if I share this and I failed at it, people are gonna think I'm less credible. No, people think you're less credible when they have no idea what you've done before and you don't talk about it,
Yeah.
because then they're like, okay, like what's up?
Mm.
Like give me some background, give me some detail. Like people don't care if like you've done something else and haven't worked and haven't like succeeded at it. I think every successful person has failed at something before they've succeeded at it. And that's why I
Yeah.
always say like failure is on the path to success. Like you're not going to succeed unless you fail at least 3 to 7
Yeah.
times. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no story if there's no like pitfall in a way. If there's no risks, there's
Exactly.
nothing. There's nothing to really talk about when you're a prince somewhere and everything's going well in your life and nothing's happening. Like it's just all good. Like no one would listen to your story,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, but
Why?
we love those people who are like came from the trenches and then hustled and then got up, but then something happened again. Like it wasn't actually a happy ever after. Like shit
Mhm.
happened again, and then they maybe went down and like went to the rabbit hole to in the shitty position they were, and then rose back up. So yeah, like that's the story, like up and down and up and down. But yeah, just to go back to your psychology, because it really interests me that you studied psychology, and I had a guest, David Azizov. Are you familiar with David?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah, so he's a good friend of mine. He's an ex as well, and he talked about how people who win are those who are good in psychology. What do you think
Mhm.
about that phrase?
Yeah, absolutely. Because and I think it has a lot to do with marketing in a sense. Because I think the fact that marketing does not include more psychology is very interesting to me. Because
Mm,
marketing is just people trying to understand people. Psychology is people just trying to understand people. I mean, it's essentially hand in hand. So,
yeah.
and that's what I think is very important in any business. That's why, as someone with an entrepreneurial mindset, I never knew in school like what I wanted to do, like because I never wanted to like fit myself into like one hole.
Mm,
And it's death by a million choices at the same time. But also, I think something that I found beneficial with psychology is okay, I can use that with anything. Like it applies to everything.
yeah.
More
Humanism.
specifically with my program, within my master's program, it was more of industrial psychology, which is more of the business psychology, understanding like, okay, here's a workplace. It was more for corporations, but like, here's a workplace. Here's the lack of efficiency. How are we going to solve for this? How are we going to
Mm,
get this to be more sustainable? Are we going to delegate? Are we going to automate? How are we going to work on that? So it really combined the idea of business and psychology and just finding the efficiencies. All right, maybe everything is very efficient here, but people don't like it here. Um, what are ways to increase the culture? What are ways to fix the culture? There's a high turnover rate, maybe. People are leaving quickly. People are not understanding. People are not buying.
mm,
What is a training and development program we can create to have people learn how to do things on their own?
interesting.
That's kind of where I fit into the most because my next two jobs, I was at an accounting firm doing training and development. I was at a nonprofit doing training and development, teaching people that were onboarded into the company how to do their job.
Mm,
So when I found this in personal branding and the whole coaching idea, I said, okay, I could take everything that I use in training and development and just kind of cater it more towards this. So
mm,
I think really just having the aspect of using psychology to not only understand a person, but having them understand themselves, taking them through that therapy session that, you know, is also their business. And that's what I found most useful with my master's program is really combining that therapy and business sense. All right, this is going to be the breakdown of you. How how did you feel like your business is doing? Essentially, just kind of breaking it down, like, all right, what are the pitfalls? And I think a lot of people are scared to almost bring up the pitfalls. And
mm.
why I feel like that is because I was like that. Um, I'd be like, I don't want to tell someone that problem. Like, that's so embarrassing. Also, I was
Yeah.
like, they're gonna like think like I'm a schmuck. Like, they're not gonna want to like, not going to want to work with me, or they're going to like laugh at me, something like that. But like, how are you expected to get better if you like are hiding the problems?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like a huge aspect that you kind of have to break through. If you want to be vulnerable with it, the faster you are vulnerable with it, the faster you're going to grow. The more you go out and try to fail as fast as you can, the more you're going to succeed. I mean, it's very inverse, but it's also makes a lot of sense to some degree. So the idea of connecting psychology with business, I think, is very important because you want to understand where people are coming from. And not only the idea of understanding that, but the effort of trying to understand that is where genuine connection is made. Because a lot of people, they come across with the whole idea of, oh, Nathaniel, how you doing? Good? Okay, let me tell you about me. It's very cut through, transparent, like you could see it coming from a mile away, and I think it's just so obvious. So I think the best way to do it, and yeah, you can talk about yourself, that's completely fine, and you should be able to, but you got to get to know the people. But you got to get to know people. I mean, it's just simple as that. And like, that's how psychology has been more interesting to me, is because it's made me more fascinated with people than to talk about myself or talk about things like that, because I have certain perspectives on whether it's life, whether it's business, whether it's X, that I have. And and asking people their opinions and their perspectives are just as important, because the minute you feel like you know everything is the minute you know nothing, because you don't you take your word as gospel, and everyone else's, you don't care about as much from that
Yeah.
logic. So like, why would you want to connect with other people is almost the question. So you have to understand, like, I am just one part of this, I am just one mind in this. Let me understand other people's minds in this, so I can have this almost collective consciousness when I'm working, when I'm thinking. I'll be like,
Yeah.
instead of being like, oh, I know this is a good strategy, I'm going to do it, I'm going to be like, well, Nathaniel said he actually has made this mistake by doing this. So I'm like, all right, I'm taking all this education that I've got from other people and then just applying it to what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people can benefit from that, because a lot of people want to, be the guru from day one. And you can be with certain products and services that, you have an advantage on, but you also need to take other people's thoughts and advice into mind.
For sure. For
And I
sure.
guess that's a big wrap up of, really why I think psychology is very important. It's just more of the introspection and the understanding of others, just the willingness to understand others.
For sure. And I think this is one of the key things. I think I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson, and I'm going to cite him on this because he talked about the key thing in psychoanalysis, which is like Freud and what's his name, Carl Jung, is
Mm-hmm.
the exploration of like the shadow, the unknown part of you, because we live our lives thinking that we know ourselves, that um, we already know everything about us, because we feel like what we think who we think we are is who we are already. Then just something happens, like an accident happens, and then you freak out, and then you realize you're not as stoic as you thought you were. That you thought you were a goody two shoes person, and then suddenly, like, a war happens, and suddenly you're in the side of the oppressor, right? Like, you think that you're a good person, not realizing that there's more about you, that you're actually very complex. And yeah, just going back to what you mentioned, it's like when you have that close mindedness, that's when you're screwed also in business. When you think that your business is all set up, that it's all good, that's when you should be afraid, because there's
Mm-hmm.
probably something that you're missing. And when you're anxious, business is going well. When you're anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something you bring up, so I love this topic of like the shadow person, because um, it is by definition. I just did a quick Google search. I will let you know. I wanted to make sure I had this completely right. It is basically the opposite of what so your ego thinks you're this person. Your personality, your mind, you create a personality for yourself, a thought of who I am, who Nathaneal is.
Yeah.
And you have this idea of who you are in yourself. And everything that you stuff down that goes against the ideology of, oh no, like that wouldn't make me this person if I was this or that or believe this or that. That becomes your shadow person, because it's almost a nice way of saying your alter ego, because of the idea of you don't want to believe you're that person. So like an example is something like I thought like from early on that I was really good at public speaking. I thought I was really good at it. And then I did a public speaking course and I sucked. And I was just awful. And I curled up, I was shaking, my hands were shaking, the paper was wobbling. And I just didn't want to go back, because I was like, no, I am a good public speaker. I just, the lighting was off or some kind of terrible excuse. So it was a big conflict of mine, was to accept the fact that I wasn't very good at that. And it made me almost have this personality crisis of like, this is who I say I am. And if I'm not that person, then what am I? And it's almost that identity crisis that makes you have to face your fears. It makes you have to, then I went back, I did these courses, I did spaces, I did, interviews, stuff like that. And that's how I've been able to practice and get better at it. And I think it's just a very important way of just creating that transformation. And there was a part of me that just wanted to be like, nope, I'm a great public speaker, but I'm just never going to public speak again. But that's the idea of your shadow person is it's things that you don't want to believe about yourself in a sense. And everyone has them. I mean, like, it could be a very big thing, it could be a very small thing. I mean, it's all just different folks, different strokes. I mean, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. And actually, the shadow part is, I think, something that would make a personal brand more personal. Because again, we kind of touched on this, what you mentioned earlier about you don't want to be just the perfect person who just like everything's going well, because there's no story in that, right? And I remember, are you familiar with Chris Do?
Chris who?
Chris Do.
Maybe.
Do. So he's like he's also a personal branding coach. So he talked about how, so his tagline is actually like loud introvert, right? That's his tagline. So he said that because
I had to do a quick search, but I do know Chris Do.
Yeah. So Chris Do, like his tagline is like, he's the loud introvert, because he is introverted, but he likes to talk. Like he has a lot of ideas, and he's an INTJ man. He's like deep into personal branding. Like he has massive ideas that I love. And he talked about how, that's what makes a personal brand more personal, because you show somewhat like, hey, I'm a person, I'm imperfect, right? He says like, I'm not as good as you thought I'm actually an introvert. I shiver before I go to stage, right? Like, I'm like you. I'm not this perfect human being who just goes up in the stage, crushes my talk, and then boom, we're done. It's like, I overthink. I can't sleep before I go to stage. And that makes you human, and that makes you likable.
Absolutely. And I definitely identify with that, because, I find myself as someone that loves, I have an introverted battery, but once the battery's full, I'll be yelling and screaming. And then once it's empty, I'll run to my room,
God.
I'll run off, like, all right, I'm done. I definitely identify with that. So that's definitely, I got to check out some more of his stuff, because that's definitely something that and that's exactly the whole point of what we're talking about too, is like just right there in live action. Like, you mentioned something that I related to. That's something that he is special about. He is a loud introvert. That's his brand personality. I identified with it. Now I want to go check him out. Now I want to go see his stuff. I mean, it's exactly what we were talking about. Like, we're just, I think it's just so funny to like, I guess just kind of hit me. But like, I think it's just, that's what it's all about. I mean, just create your own personality and your brand, and don't be afraid of your shadow person, because the more you attack that shadow person in public, the more people are going to be like, oh shit, yeah, I'm like that too. You know, I'm
Mm,
like, because that's exactly what I just thought. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm like that too. So, you know what? If I'm like that and he's like that and he's posting
it's
about
fine.
it, I would
Yeah.
love to check it out.
Yeah. And again, like the shadow person, it also not only for your business and your personal brand, but also for your personal development. And this is like, I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is, just personal development, but you get paid, right? That's our goals as entrepreneurs, is to like find ourselves. Like what you, this goes back to your tagline, like discover, build and grow. It's to discover ourselves, build ourselves, grow as a person, but in be able to monetize that, right?
Mhm.
That's really what entrepreneurship is. And when you continually deny your shadow, you just go, like a lot of people who deny their shadow become like get mental illness. Well, this is like from just the things that I read. I'm not a psychologist, I can't really say that, but from the things that I read, those people who live in denial, they start developing like psychosomatic diseases.
I think the best way to look at this, people always tell you grow outside the box, go
Mm.
outside the box. You know, think outside the box. You know, do all this. Where's the freaking box? You know, what is the box? Where's the box? How can I get outside
I
of this
love
box?
it. I love
So
it.
almost imagine your shadow person, yourself. So your box is what you believe in yourself,
Mm.
and your shadow person is what surrounds that box. It
Mm.
borders. It's all over around. And
Mm.
for me, for example, if I want to think outside the box, I'm gonna, you know, at the time I was gonna do more public speaking. I did more. I practiced.
Right.
I became better at it, and then my box
Mm.
became a little bigger,
Yeah.
just from because I kind of was able to consume that part of the shadow, I guess. And
Mm.
then the more things that you challenge, that you fear, the better off you'll be, and the bigger your box will be, and the bigger your comfort level will be with things. Because people that just want to stay inside their box, they have a very small box. They don't want to go out. They don't want to do much because there's not much that they've tried to conquer. And
Yeah.
I'm saying this like I have, so like there's so many things I still need to want to think
Of
about doing.
course.
And there's never going to be enough things that you're going to think like, oh wow, I've really done it all. Like if you think that, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
So although I say this, don't take my word as gospel, because there's definitely a lot of things like I need to do as well to grow as a person, and we all
Yeah.
have to do so. But that's kind of the vision I see around growing outside the box. Is you're surrounded by your shadow, and the only way to
Mm.
grow your box is to push forward and push through it. And it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely things that are worth doing.
Yeah, I love that. And just to connect this, because I love your thread about Mark Manson, bro. I love that thread because I love
That
Mark
one, that
Manson, man.
that one did well. I think that's one. And you know what's the funniest part? And this is just all about mistakes and problems. Is
Yeah,
I
yeah.
spelled this guy's name wrong on the first line of the tweet, second line of the tweet, and it
Really?
was
I didn't
yeah,
notice it.
it was Mark Mason. I put
Holy shit. That's
yeah,
crazy.
and what's
That's
funny is,
crazy, man.
so I did make that mistake on the thread, and I worked so hard on that thread. I took so many videos of his. You could see
Yeah.
throughout the thread. I was so happy it did well. But then I saw it was a mistake, but I saw it was still blowing up. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, maybe this is my time to capitalize on something more. Always try to adapt. That's what I've always tried to
Yeah.
tried to find. So what I did was I took the thread that was already blowing up, and I sent it to Mark Manson. And I said on Twitter, because I see he's active on Twitter a decent amount, and I said to him, I said, "Hey, got this thread about you that's really blowing up. Sorry, I fucked up your name, uh, or something like to that effect."
Yeah.
Actually, let me go find it, because I really want to make sure I have the message that I sent him correct.
For
Yeah, so I
sure. For
sent him the
sure.
thread, and I said, "Fucked up your name in the title, but this is blowing up. Thought you might enjoy." And he didn't respond to the message itself, but he commented on the post and just corrected his name. And a lot of people love it and stuff like that. So I think really just finding any kind of way to capitalize. Some people were commenting, correcting me. And they were saying it was just getting a lot more comments that way.
Yeah,
People were
yeah,
commenting, "Oh, he did this on purpose," he was doing that or something like that. And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Sure." I was like, maybe next time I will do it on purpose. But I mean, so
Yeah,
funny because I didn't realize until it got like 100,000 views, and then someone said to me, "Oh, hey, you spelled his name wrong, right?" I was like, "Oh,
yeah. And then it was
shit."
like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, because what's funny is that that's actually also the exact same thing that happened to my most viral thread as well. So my most viral thread is the power of now, and I didn't fuck up anything on the hook, but in the body, if you read through it, there are words that are missing. And the reason I think why I like there were words that was missing was because I removed some words because the tweet like was going overboard, like 280 characters. So I thought like I was going to replace them, but I never did. So I published it, and then when I was reading it, I was like, "Fuck, I." I missed some words, and I was like, "Well, fuck it. I don't want to delete this and do it all over again. I just like screw it, just let it be there." And it just blew up. It went like 600 something thousand views. Like, whoa. And that's when I realized, man, it doesn't really matter. That's why I also post like, doesn't matter, like just post publish. If your idea is good, it's going to pop. But I mean, you should take that with nuance and a grain of salt. Of course, you need to like also have articulate things. But yeah, it just goes to show the power of a good idea and a good hook. But yeah, I love the Mark Manson thread, man. Like, and I think it's also kind of like connected to what you said with embracing the shadow. And I think that he does a good job with that because he just owns it, right? He
Mhm.
owns his failures. He makes a lot of those videos where fuck it, right? Like, just do what you got to do. If you fail, if you look like an idiot, well, fuck.
Yeah, he's his most genuine self, and I think that's the best part of it. Then something I sorry, I didn't want to kind of sneak up on you like this, but I do have to go in like 5 minutes. I hope that's all right.
Right, no problem, bro.
All right, sweet. But yeah, if there's any like big points as well, but yeah, I think with his tweets and his approach of just just do your thing. I think I believe it's him that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and
Yeah,
how important it is to, when you think about like what does everyone care about, what does everyone like, you can't be yourself on these brands because you have to think like, oh, I just want to be, I want to be liked, I don't want to be myself, and it's just like high school all over again, and you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna try to be myself if like I'm afraid of what people think, and if people don't like me for being myself, like what's the point of being on here? And then it's just mental torment. So like
yeah.
just really being able to just understand what you want to, just being your own self. And listen, if people like it, they do. If people don't like it, they won't follow you, or they won't interact, or maybe they will, or just a
Mm.
hate, but it's only going to help you. But with people, in a sense of being able to have other things, just being able to be yourself, then you'll have people that will actually follow.
For sure, dude. So, just the final question that I want to ask, considering that what we've gone through, what do you think is your box right now? Or a better question yet, what is the shadow for Alex that you think he should face right now?
Absolutely, and I think the box that I need to face to grow more, I think, is really just trying to find a way to, or looking for my path of scaling. I
Mm.
think in terms of my business, I'll talk about
Mm.
personal as well, because I think both are equally important. But I think I have my cohort as well as my mentorship program right now that I've helped people more on one-on-one mentorships, but this is the
Mm.
cohort that I'm doing early, that you know I'm just looking to really deliver as much as I can for people. I think that's
Mm.
just it's the most important way. It's the most Word of mouth is the most important thing you could do, and I think the argument behind, like, because people tell me like, oh, why would I join someone that's more early than like a Dan Coe with like 250,000 followers. And my argument to that, or 450,000 followers, this guy's like growing by the second. But my argument to that is, my livelihood, my everything is based on your success, or like
Mm,
everyone that's early starting is based on your success. People with that
mm,
following, if you succeed, if you don't succeed, it does not make a dent. Um,
mm.
so that's why I always encourage people to get mentorship and courses from people that are one step above them. That's something
Yeah.
that I wish I did as well, because I think if I
Mm,
get mentorship for someone one step above me, that it would help me have more personalized fixes to some issues. So that was something that
mm,
I definitely learned off of as well. But I think over delivering for clients is really my main goal right now, because this is the real time where I've had kind of the most concurrent clients in business to work with. So I think that's really what I'm trying to do the most. Getting those results for people is the top priority, and really
mm,
setting that foundation. I think, just like we said, like you can do it for people, or you can have people do it for themselves, and really building that foundation where I want someone to feel that at the end of my mentorship, my cohort program, okay, I have the foundation here. And as long as I do this, I'll succeed. Giving that
mm,
person no reason to doubt, I think, is a very important thing. And of course, there's always going to be doubt in any kind of entrepreneurship. But giving someone the steps and the foundation to feel comfortable and confident in what they're building is number one. I would
mm,
put that as my number one business goal, is to do that, and then to eventually scale it into something that could be, a bigger program, but really personalizing even the mentorship program, or the cohort program, because the mentorship program is very personalized. So really having that as well, in addition to the coursework that people get, is the number one thing that that I'm really focusing on right now.
mm,
Now, in terms of personal, I would say being able to work and play very evenly. I do have my 9 to 5 as well as doing this, so I do understand people that have their 9 to 5 and are looking to build this, because it's definitely something that I do right now. So
yeah.
doing that is definitely a challenging task. But I think the most important thing that I want to build and grow on personally is just enjoying the summer, getting out there, being able to be more active, going for more walks, going to the beach more, things like that, things where I can, enjoy, instead of just kind of being dug into working on the program, working at 9 to 5, just going and enjoying life more, because you want to build your business of how you want to build your lifestyle, because then
Mm,
that transition is going to be impossible once it grows to be too big. So you almost want to set up like, all right, I want to enjoy this time in my life, and I want to work in this time of my life, and sometimes they can both interlap, which is great. So
mm,
I think really setting more free time for myself, something
mm.
that I know Audrey preaches a lot as well, that I do appreciate. So I think really setting that standard is very important.
The freedom, brother.
I'd love to hear yours though, please.
To me, my shadow right now is I wrote about this with Matthew McConaughey. I do also have the same mentality of hustler, because that's how I grew up. I grew up in a hustler's mentality where I need to like prove myself constantly
Mm-hmm.
to work. Um, Everything in my life, personal, like I always feel like I'm a nuisance. My family situation was not really pleasant, and it's a deeply ingrained trauma where when things go wrong, I feel like I'm wrong, like my
Mm-hmm.
being is wrong, and that's definitely something I've been working on. I'm aware of it, but right now it's especially in this entrepreneurship thing where everything is unexpected, it becomes more heightened, because you don't really know what's going to happen. And in a way, the only person you can blame in the end is yourself. So it's really hard to not to not anchor your value to success. But, in the end, at the end of the day, I came here with nothing. Like I was, in a way, a loser. That's all the thing that I'm thinking. Like, that's just the thing that I'm thinking. It's like, I went on X, 100 following that of people that I don't know. I was a loser back then. if I lose, I had nothing to lose in the beginning. Like I just went in, just played the game, and if I lost, it's fine. I'll just do something else, or I'll get a 9 to 5 job. It's fine, or we'll continue. But yeah, that mentality, and that's definitely something I should fix. But yeah,
I love that. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of people feel. And that accountability level is very important, but also not being too hard on yourself is just, equally important. Really understanding that things come in ebbs and flows. But we actually finished right at the buzzer because I'm at 1% on this laptop. So if I have a Irish exit, please forgive me. But this
no
was
problem,
awesome.
brother.
I would love to do this anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do a space. So anyone who's watching, watch out for that, for the space. And I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate your time. I know you're a
Appreciate
busy
you.
guy, launching the cohort, launching the offers, and thank you for hopping in, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.